Hey guys, this is Malobi and you are listening to the Pan-African Traders Podcast. On this podcast, we're going to be speaking with experts in trade across the value chain, on the continent and also across the diaspora. This podcast is also sponsored by Kadan Kadan. Kadan Kadan is a new groupage app that allows you to share space within a shipping container so that you can save costs when it comes to your logistics and transportation. Visit kadankadan.com to learn more or visit the Instagram page Kadan Kadan Official. Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Malobi from the Pan-African Traders Podcast. Today, I've got a very special guest. He goes by many names, David, Kim, Dung, and I'm very, very happy to have him on here. He's let's just say he's a good acquaintance of mine, and I've met him a few times in Jos, and he's hosted me very well. So, welcome to the podcast, David. It's really, really great to have you. First of all, what name do you prefer people to refer to you as, or do you just not mind which one?
Okay. Hello. I think I would prefer the local name Dung, Dung, or you can still call Kim. Still, there's no problem. It's the name of the company, but usually call me Dung. David is very common, but I think I would love the local name.
Fantastic. I love the name as well. And Dung is from Plateau State, and he's based around Jos. So where's that name from? What tribe is that, Dung?
Okay, Dung is a Biram name. It's a Biram name on here on the plateau, and particularly in Jos. The Biram people use the name Dung, D-U-N-G. And I don't know whether some people they can actually pronounce the name, but it's actually a local name. And let me give a little bit small history. And I think most of our names they come up from animals. Then mostly our parents they look at the unique animal in the maybe in the forest, and they give birth to they give birth to a child, a name, and they just use the name for the child, and so on and so forth. But right now, actually, modernization is coming in. People are getting to get new names and new meanings, and so. But I think my own name is attached to an animal, a very unique animal, very very unique animal. So I'll just stop there.
What's the animal though? What's the English name?
Please, I don't know. I don't want to. Let's just do. But okay. So you can get like a name Dung, you can get name Vo, you can get like name Pam, you can get Simi, you can get the name like Chung, and I think we kind of like have some similarities with the. According to our names, this sounds like more of the Chinese.
Yeah, it does. Line. It does actually. Yeah. I didn't actually think of that. That's really interesting. And one other thing on the kind of cultural aspect before we get into the conversation of the day, you mentioned when I visited you, you mentioned the Biron people. Because Jos is quite hilly, and I think there was a woman that was very popular who fought off some invaders on top of a rock. I don't know if you can explain that story.
Okay. So I think we grew up and we know of there's this when the Danfodio invaders were coming down to invade part of the North Central, and we were told that they were not able to conquer Plateau State particularly just because of the rocky terrain, and our people were so very known with the rocks, and somehow that's how they were able to conquer the Danfodio. And I think there's this Queen Amina of Zauzal too, which she was a warrior, and she tried to invade the same Plateau people, the Jos people, particularly the Biron people, and I think it was not possible for her. So that was how she was being kicked out. But if you look at the internet, maybe you can Google that story. You don't see that story. I don't know why is it so, but but that was just actually what happened. So some of our forefathers and our grandparents actually told us those stories, and which we believe that was what happened. So
Yeah.
uh,
And you know, the history books can be edited, and the history that's passed
yeah,
down from generation to generation sometimes is more accurate than what they write online. So
yeah.
thank you so much for that brief history. So let's get straight into the topic of today. Dung is a coffee farmer, and for those people that are listening from Nigeria, this might be a bit of a shock to you that people actually grow coffee in Nigeria. But I'm having this podcast with you today to let you know that they do. And Dung has actually got some of the best Arabica coffee that I've tasted ever, let alone Nigeria. So, Dung, can you talk about your kind of your path, or how you got into coffee farming?
Uh, okay. So my own part actually started with a coffee tree, one coffee tree a friend gave me, I think, which was like 1 feet tall. And so I actually took the coffee tree and planted it. And so I think I nurtured that coffee tree for a long time. It's still growing. It's still producing right now. So from there, and I started plugging the beans to kind of like jokingly play with it, roast it, and so on and so forth. And I was trying things with it. Let me just see how the coffee taste will taste, how the roasted coffee beans will taste, and so on and so forth. So that was how my journey started with that coffee tree, or that one coffee tree. Then eventually, I felt that there was a gap in the value chain, particularly in coffee in Nigeria, particularly in Jos. So I picked interest in it just to start adding value on our own local coffee, and so started adding value. So there was a time when um, the first harvest I collected from people, from farmers, and so it was actually very terrible. Like 99% of the coffees who I collected from them was terrible, and they were not up to my standards. What I mean by that is like is either they are being they didn't store them very well, and they lost a lot of moisture content, their density, and so on and so forth. So I felt that wow, this is something must be done in order to not allow that thing to repeat. So I gradually like, okay, the next year again, same similarities happen, the same kind of like poor quality and so on and so forth. And that was when I now start feeling that I should be able to look at the back end of producing coffee here in Jos. So started going back to the farm and growing more coffee trees, and at the same time managing coffee trees for and educating again coffee farmers who are into coffee, and and so on and so forth. So that was how I got myself back to coffee farming again. And so, and the system is right now changing again in Plateau, because the kind of farming that we are growing coffee farms, not just only just growing coffee because of the altitudes or what we have here, but we're going into coffee with a kind of a different dimension of farming, which is more of an agroforestry, where a farmer will be able to like have a double, maybe multiple clicks of harvest, not just only relying on coffee. And because actually being a coffee farmer is very, very tedious, and the coffee farmer is paying more less than someone that will buy a cup of coffee in the cafe and drink. So this is a kind of system that we're trying to sanitize more farmers to go into, so that where they can get multiple yields of other crops, and so that the systems can actually the coffee sustainability, the coffee sustainability farm can still be going and be running smoothly. So so that's just how I saw myself, and I just felt that there was a gap, and not just only my own farm, but at the same time again working with cooperatives and educating them, bringing experts from other part of the country, out of the country, from other. We just had a visitor from Uganda too. They just came on the coffee, just trying to see how we can network with our own local farmers and just like share knowledge, or even from Mozambique and so on and so forth. So that's just what we're doing right now, just to have a
Wow.
sustainable coffee coffee future. Exactly.
Wow. This is amazing. You've hit a lot of the points that I wanted to touch. So you're making my job easy for me. But I love some of the things you spoke about. You spoke about agroforestry, which is, making the whole coffee more sustainable,
Mm,
both for the environment and the farmer. You
mm,
spoke about, working with cooperatives. So these are all things that, you know, in the Western world, these are things that people are now, trying to, push forward. And I like that, even in Nigeria, you're pushing the boundaries with when it comes to the conversation around sustainability, because most people are just thinking, let me just farm the coffee, get the coffee and sell it, So I like that you're already like, thinking ahead of the curve. And
mm,
which kind of brings me on to the point around the time, because a lot of people don't get into like tree crops because it takes some time, it takes years, maybe
mm.
to get your first, few coffee beans. So it's very interesting how it takes a lot of patience to get into coffee. How have you found that? Do you find it sometimes frustrating having to wait so long to get a harvest, or do you just accept it as this is how it is, and you just have to be patient? How do you find that long time that it takes?
So I think I find it very, very, first of all, it's the drive you have in trying to execute something special. And so recently, I just was it yesterday or I just saw the Nigerian lady that won the gold medal. And so anytime when I see Nigerians actually doing something amazing, so I have this super drive, and I
Mm,
just want to attach myself to that. Like when I was telling someone about Bruno Boy, and I just like, look at this Nigerian and so on and so forth. So this
mm,
image that you just want to do, you want to clear, you want to create this great image of Nigerians. And like I'm passionate about coffee. So if coffee should take me 2 years, what have I learned in coffee?
mm,
So not just only growing the coffee, there are other weather conditions too that might matter. And like how do you mitigate such problems? How do you solve those problems? An example,
mm,
couple of years I had like a year back, I had a farm that was being burned. So what was the problem? There was a problem. So how is the
mm,
solution? So you tend to look at solutions and you try to create solutions, and that will be able to help you to help, or if you're going to consult or you're going to help someone to grow this and say, okay, this is it. And again,
mm,
like so this it's so very, very diverse. It's so very interesting getting to know how do we need to grow, how do we need to create plant trees to give coffee shades at
mhm,
what line from the sunset, from the wind directions, the contour lines of the rains of the water, the topography of the land, and so on and so forth. But a normal like a normal conversation, if you look at the farmer, I just plan what I want to plant. But there are
mm,
directions, the sunrise, sunset. There's a cast of shadows, and because of coffee would love a very high amount of good shade, and
mm,
want something that is very cold. How would you do when the sun is at noon?
mm,
So the trees that you plant, would they cast the shadow to give it that kind of that shade and so on and so forth? So these are some of the things that, though it's taking me a bit longer step, but it's bringing me to a level of perfection. It's bringing me to a level of depthness, of deepness of understanding. Now you're not only
mm,
just talking about those things again, you're looking at okay, the micronutrients too, which would be interesting. So in my farm now, we are going purely organic. So
wow.
what are you trying to do that you'll be able to get the high quality coffee you want? So I was just telling you, I had yesterday I was at the farm. So and if you look at the farm, if you look at the coffee, oh wow, this is going to give us a good harvest. The leaves are looking good. But when we started cutting some of these trunks, those suckers that they're
Mhm,
popping out, people say you're crazy. But no, come on, you're just learning how you can. We're interested. If it's a tree, it should give you a 3 kg. of coffee beans.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you do a tree that can give you one tree that can give you up to 9 kg or 6 kg? So you keep on learning, you keep on learning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Crazy.
This is, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's crazy. So you look at from the soil, from the suckers that are coming out, uh, from the pruning, from this and that, and so on and so forth. It's just all around the cycle where you just have to think. And again, in terms of water droughts, what would you do when you have coffee? So by October, our rains are out. So what do you need to do? This is like the rate of evaporation, the green cover, and the plantations, and so on and so forth. So it's so diverse, and it's just like reading a Bible, and it's so complex. At the end of the day, at the end of the day, you try to get some of those things, and your contentment with, okay, fine, this is not a race, but you're just trying to do something that could be of high quality, and what you're giving your customers to, or what you're giving the end user, you know what you're giving it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is fantastic, because um when you're a pioneer, it's a much more difficult journey for you because you're kind of learning as you're going along, you're making the mistakes, you're investing a lot of money. But what
Yeah.
is beautiful about this is that, you can then pass back that knowledge. You can consult people, you can make the learning process for the next generation of coffee farmers a lot quicker. So I'm very happy to hear that. So, but that kind of makes me wonder, like, did you have a mentor or someone that, like, when you first got into coffee farming, that was like kind of guiding you along, or were you just kind of on your own and you had to figure it out?
So I think I never had a mentor. I can maybe only read what I can read, and I'll ask certain questions, and I just look at like you look at the coffee tree, you look at what you need to do on the coffee tree, not only coffee tree, but you look at the tree, what does the tree does, and when you prune the tree, and so on and so forth. And I'd never had a mentor, but I think pressure will push you to a part where you have to make certain decisions in life. A quick one, critical. You have to think critically. An example, like I was asking myself, what if, let's say, we don't have coffee? Okay, there was a time when the whole dam, our dam got completely finished. There was no water, and you could actually see climate change is heating up, and so I now felt that, okay, now if I cannot produce berries, what is the solution, the next solution? So can I turn my leaves into coffee? So it's a level, it's a question you keep on asking, what do you need to do? So I love that space where you make me to think out of the box. I don't want to be very, very comfortable and saying um I just need to stick on this, okay, just to produce the berries. But what if there were no berries on your tree because there's no water and so on and so forth? What would you do when you have the leaves? Can't you turn the leaves into coffee? I don't know. Yes, it's possible. It's just for
Wow.
us to thinking out. Yeah. So I think those are some of the things that when you have this push and you just want to start thinking ahead, and whether we like it or not, we definitely when they have this food crisis that we always been making ourselves warm up about, and what are the simplest solutions you want to go, where do you want to start thinking now, and so on and so forth. And even with in Nigeria where there's an insecurity, what do you need to do? So these are solutions, are questions that you keep on asking as a farmer or as an entrepreneur, just in order to, like, okay, before someone is thinking about five, you're thinking about like 15. What do you need to do? So I think I like that kind of
Mm.
where it pushed me to get myself and get ready in case of anything might happen. So I never had a mentor, but I think I just like the drive that is, I don't know. So yeah.
Yeah, I get you, and you're sort of driven already, without having someone having to tell you what to do, and that's beautiful. That's fantastic. I also wanted to talk about, what you're growing, the particular type of coffee you're growing. So for the viewers and listeners, can you just explain on a very top level, don't have to go into detail, but like, what kind of coffee you're growing, whether it's Arabica or, roasted. So what exactly are you producing?
I'm actually producing the Arabica coffee, which we have an altitude of almost 1,700 thereabout above sea level. So we grow more of the Arabica coffee. Yeah.
Can you explain the difference between Arabica and Robusta for people that don't really know much? Because a lot of people drink coffee, right? But they don't know the Starbucks coffee versus a premium coffee. Like what is really the difference?
So the difference between, from my own knowledge about coffee, the difference so the Robusta is the high caffeinated coffee, and you get it in the lower lands. And what I mean the lower lands is that maybe if you go down towards Kogi, Bauchi, you start going down. So those are places that you can actually find Robusta that they grow very well there. And you go towards the west part of it too. And yeah, so you get a lot of, because of one, there are factors that contribute to that. So let's say the weather and the altitudes too, the soil compositions too, three. And so these are the kind of, yeah. So, but here on the plateau, we are more of a rocky area terrain, and we have an altitude that is almost, like I said, 1,700. And the soil, okay, the weather too. Actually, like I was telling you before we started the meeting here, it's very, very cold. And so Arabica coffee actually like an environment that you can, that's very, very cool for it to thrive very well and so on and so forth. Yeah.
So I was muted. That's brilliant. Thank you for kind of explaining that. And one thing that I really love is that you're not just selling the green beans, you're actually roasting the coffee. So you're adding value to the product because, in Africa, we've been doing this for such a long time. We just export raw materials, we sell raw materials, but I like that you're actually adding value. Which would mean that you could make higher margins, but also means that you're potentially creating more jobs and doing stuff that's going to be better for the economy. So what made you go into roasting the coffee as opposed to just selling the raw green beans?
Wow. So wow. So so my story, I have a background in mechanical engineering, and I remember some particular top course I was studying, strength of materials. And strength of material doesn't only just work with metals, and can be anything, either food too, because you see how foods change when you either cook it or you dry it, or so they have a structure that it's been maybe kind of like changes it. So I think so I started actually roasting. Why I started roasting was just that I have a background in a little bit of in food processing, which it was fonio, one of the African oldest grain. So started doing that. So I always have this fun of like, okay, I want to play with what I'm doing. I just want to play. I want to have fun and producing money, but at the same time having fun, just to explore and so on and so forth. So I started roasting actually with a pot and a stove.
Oh
But
wow, wow.
there were a lot of questions that why I started that way. One, well, we all know it's very expensive to get a coffee roaster, and wisdomly, you won't want to get a coffee roaster even when you have the money. You want to get a coffee roaster when you don't have the raw material. You're just tying an investment. Then secondly, again, I why I started with the pots and the stove was to understand the chemistry of temperature and time. Yeah,
Mm.
temperature, that's the fire, and the time, how long does it take for you to roast, and so on and so forth. So I was able to learn with my five senses, where the act of smell with your nose, the act of hearing, the act of eyes, the act of feeling again. So those are some of the things I was able to, when I was roasting with locally, I was able to identify those notes. Then again, when I was roasting, working with the pot and the stove, I was be able to now understand that if Asia, if you go to Asia or Italy or any part of the country, they are known for a particular kind of meal or drink or anything. So if you go to
Mm-hmm.
the Asian, give you tea. If you go to maybe the Italians, you get either macaroni pizza. If you could talk about Nigeria, you're talking about jollof rice, Nigerian jollof. They are the first, you understand, so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
every food, like every food in every country has, or every food in Nigeria, in state anywhere, they there are cultures in it. So I asked
Mm.
the question, so why would the first history of coffee, they didn't start out with a coffee with a conventional machine, or maybe they would just sit down and kind of like roast for you, and so on and
Mm.
so. So I discovered that it's a niche that I wanted to create,
Mm-hmm.
hand roasted coffee, because most of people, what they do now, they do the more of the conventional. So I discovered there were elements that could actually give those aromas that you're looking for. An example again is just like now, I always say if I give you a chicken with charcoal or with a firewood, or I give you chicken
Yeah.
with, which one would you prefer? So it's just
Yeah.
about like you having your aesthetics or just getting to know your niche, creating that niche and saying, okay, I want it more homely. I want to feel the aromas, the smoke, and I want to really feel, I want to eat that your love made on big pots and so on and so forth. That's one of the things actually, you just find your niche and you
Mm-hmm.
just stop. You get it. You either develop more on it or you just, yeah. So that's just why, that's how I was able to, I started using with a stove and a pot. And I did that actually for 1 year because I had no money to buy a machine for that. But I just felt that
Mm.
we're tired of exporting these things, green beans and so on and so forth. It's like we're giving back crude oil, we're taking out crude oil, then we're taking the refined one back in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, so I'm a strong believer of possibilities uh, and be patient. Again, you always find your way out.
Yeah, this is beautiful because the it's the same kind of themes, but I think that from what I'm getting from you is that you're also driven by just innovation. You want to create new things. You want to discover.
Yeah.
And combining that with someone that actually has a love for nature and the farming is it's not very common. Sometimes you get someone that's just deep into farming, and then another person is deep into processing. So it's very interesting to speak to you because you have a love for both. You have a love for the natural and the farming and understanding how nature is involved in farming, but then you have that engineering background, So this it's a nice little mix you got there. So thank you so much for what you've shared so far. I'm sure a lot of people are learning from what you're sharing. And then the one final thing that I picked from what you were saying is that a lot of people, when they get into business, they want to get all the most expensive equipment. They want to have everything ready and
Yep.
good to go. But sometimes you just start with what you have, and then
Mm,
just start and just keep going and keep going.
yep.
And you never
Mm,
know. And people just buy it, and then before you know it, you've got a business. So this is
mm,
this is very encouraging, and I'm really glad you had the chance to share this story with us today. So I guess just to sort of start rounding up, I wanted to ask you about some of the kind of challenges or some of the hindrances in the coffee value chain. I mean, what's stopping coffee farmers from really scaling up and getting Nigerian coffee on the international stage?
So yeah, so some of the challenges that we are facing as farmers too, it's where policies are not friendly to a common coffee farmer. And an example is that where the government don't see where there's a need for an investment in such a thing. Like I'm not just saying because I'm doing coffee, but what are the things that can actually spill or regenerate more money internationally, not just even nationally. So I'm not saying that. So an example, like I had a small incident. So I'm not trying to blackmail someone on this though, but So it just shocked me that my number one first citizen drank my coffee, drank a couple of cups of coffee, but at the end of the day, he went to Kenya or was one of these African countries and said he wants to bring tea and coffee. While you have something locally here, you were not able to develop or to even, but you love it. You drank it and you love it. So you see where some of our leaders have failed us, and but I don't look at that drive. I don't look at them in that way just because they will demoralize me. But I just believe I'm a believer of faith and just keep on doing what you're doing. You, because you want to replicate this to the next generation and so on and so forth. So those are some of the things that farmers are actually facing, and then again something like insecurity too, as well too, and but in that insecurity to experience has taught us how we can be able to like even no matter you whatever you're going to put your farm, you know that cows and coffee they don't gel. Cows they don't eat coffee. So in that way too, but you can get goods. So if your place is not well secured and so on and so forth, those are some of the things too. We have securities and so on and so forth. And so security is another major problem again. And again, let's say, you know how the Nigerian thing works now. Some of us that were doing more what I've never in any way had any federal. This is 6 years of 6 years where any government intervention has come to what I'm doing. But we'll keep on pushing, and I'm just thanking God because though we can't even meet up demands because of what we're doing. We believe in quality. We believe in that patriotic Nigeria products just to stand out. And so what we're doing good. And but some of this where government can come to our aid, has never been happened. It's either one way or the other. Let's do a gentleman agreement and so on and so forth. But these are really people that when you end up doing something like that, they kill the dream. And so that's just it. Yeah.
No, that's great. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a big gap. There's a big gap in coffee. Coffee from Taraba, coffee from Jos. Jos is the highest producer of Arabica coffee in Nigeria. Because in Mambila can be just in Mambila, but in Godu is Ogodu. But Jos has almost 9 local governments that they can produce this quality coffee beans. So you can imagine if we can be able to rally up around those 9 local governments and say, let's put our heads up. So what we're even doing right now as a company is just that because people are tired of taking coffee, they planted coffee and there were no market. But for some of us that were into the system now, what are we doing? Kim's Coffee is that we've been opening farms for individuals. So what we do, we give them more coffee seedlings based on the size of your land. Then at the same time, we can help you to land preparation, grow the coffee with you. In exchange, we can offtake the coffee for the first year. Then gradually, based on the price of the coffee, we offtake from you again. And we still open we're still on an agroforestry project sponsored by GIZ, and we're opening like a coffee value chain where women too can be being in the coffee value chain. So we're not only just thinking of coffee too, but how do women can they participate in the whole coffee value chain, and at the same time to create some small local income from themselves, and so on and so forth. Even the internal display people, the IDPs too, we've been working with them too in the coffee value chain. So we're establishing a 2-hectare farm and a 2-hectare farm of agroforestry, but coffee too is part of it. So it's one of the big major value chain in it. I think it's the only value chain in it which system will be taught for both mothers who have lost their husbands and the internal display children to just to put them on the system and just see how they can make a living from it.
Wow. I'm loving the sort of social responsibility that you're working on. I'm loving the sustainable agroforestry that you're working on. I'm loving the fact you work with cooperative, you're empowering women. So, I mean, anyone that's watching this right now, if you want to partner with Dung, he's got some amazing stuff going on the ground in Jos. So please do reach out to him, and I'm sure he'll be happy to. So, just before we wrap up. I don't want to sort of say what you want to do, but what kind of collaborations are you looking to? You're looking more for sort of investors or business partners or farmers to grow it so you can offtake from them, or a bit of all of them? Like what kind of partnerships are you looking to?
So I'm looking for all kind of partnership, either business part of it, the business developers or the investors too. But I think our major challenge right now is that if we really want to scale up, it all starts from the farm, and if people who are ready, and because of the knowledge that we have had now, working on farms, we are always ready and we're always open to scale up in that field, and yeah, so investors too, they are very welcome, and as developers too, they're very welcome. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And how can what's your Instagram? How can people find you online?
KIMSCOFFEE, Kim's Coffee.
Yeah,
Kim's
just
Coffee.
Kim's Coffee, one word, no like underscore or anything. Just Kim's Coffee on Instagram.
.ng.
Oh, .ng. Okay. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Right. So thank you so much, Dung. This has been amazing. So much knowledge. I'm sure we could have gone for another hour just on agroforestry. That's a whole podcast on its own.
Yeah.
So no, I thank you for really just breaking it down for us, and I'm sure people are going to enjoy this podcast. So enjoy the rest of your evening in cold Jos, and we'll speak again soon.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Malobi. Really appreciate it.
All right. Okay. Bye.
Yeah. Bye, bro.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it and took away as much information as possible. Our second sponsor for this episode is Afriverse. Afriverse is an e-learning marketplace for those in the diaspora and on the continent to share knowledge between each other. Whether you're looking to gain a new skill or to find out ways that you can make money online, particularly on the African continent, Afriverse is the website for you. Visit afriverse.co, that's AFRIVERSE.co to learn more. Right now, we are running a 10% promo off the How to Export from Nigeria course. If you're looking to find out how to become a professional exporter from A to Z, visit afriverse.co, find the How to Export from Nigeria course, and type in PT10 on the checkout to get 10% off this amazing course. Please visit afriverse.co or check out our Instagram at afriverse.co to learn more.